So one of the questions I get asked quite often, especially from clients who know a little bit about filming, is what lenses do I actually use for corporate filmmaking? And I think it's an interesting question because people expect a list of super expensive glasses, but to be honest, the lenses that I use for most of the work, they are not the fanciest ones, and they're not what you would see on a big commercial shoot, and still they get the job done every single shoot. And I think, to be honest, this is the one thing that matters. So today I want to share with you my personal setup, how I think about lenses and what I actually use on real corporate filmmaking projects. And to be honest, this is just how I approach all of this. Hi, my name is Ben. I'm a corporate filmmaker, founder of 24 Stills, a boutique video production founded in Vienna, now based in New York. And on this channel, I want to share with you my journey of building my production. And before we jump into the glasses, one very important thing. The lenses you will see are not the ones that I used on big commercial projects or spec work projects. But for me, these lenses are the right tools for the type of work that I'm doing right now with my team. Because corporate filmmaking is very different from commercial production. You often have only limited time, you have small teams, and you need to move fast and stay flexible. You can't switch constantly lenses or build different setups. So for me, it always comes down to one question. What gives me the most flexibility with the least friction? So I own 5 lenses in total, but realistically there are only 3 lenses that I use for 90% of my corporate filmmaking work. And these 3 lenses cover almost everything that I need. So let's start with the most versatile one. If I could keep only one lens for corporate filmmaking, I would probably keep this one, the 28-75. I use the Tamron one. This is just the perfect all-rounder. 28mm gives you a wide angle for establishing shots, team shots, and show kind of the surroundings. And up to 75mm you can compress the image and you can get more cinematic frames. The key is you can go from very wide to very tight without switching lenses. And again, that's a huge advantage in corporate filmmaking because on real shoots, you sometimes don't have the time to constantly change setups. You need to be fast. Also, the f2.8 is great in low light, the autofocus works very well, and also it's very lightweight. So for corporate documentaries, event videos, or even for interviews, this lens is on my camera most of the time. And yes, again, there are better lenses out there. For example, there's only G Master one or other high-end glasses, but this one is only around $800. And if you're building something, a corporate filmmaking business, and you need to be a little bit more sensitive about budget, this can be a very strong option. Now, if I have a little bit more time and I can control my setup a little bit more, I switch to the 35 1.8. This is one of my favorite lenses. It's very light, it's very simple, and it gives you a very natural image. For me, the 35mm just feels human. It's not too wide, it's not too tight, which is perfect for corporate filmmaking, especially when you can get very close to your subject. I use it for interviews, I use it for gimbal shots, and I also like to use it for handheld documentary work. I also like to use it for some event shots when it's already a little bit darker. The 1.8 gives you really enough light to work with, and it's also a very minimal lens. One camera, small footprint, no distraction. This lens really works. And then there is my personal favorite one, the 85mm 1.8. Not because it's the most practical one, but just because out of the look. You get a very clean, very compressed, very beautiful image, and it just feels very polished. Works very well in corporate filmmaking. For me, this is the lens where I get the most compliments from clients for how a certain shot looks like. I use it mainly for interviews, especially as my beat cam shot. I use it for ugly environments, as I said, and I also like to use it for observational moments and also for kind of low light scenarios. For example, if you are at an event. One of my favorite interview setup is the 35mm is the A cam and the 85mm is the B cam, because this kind of gives you a natural wider perspective and a kind of more cinematic angle. And it just looks very strong if you combine these angles with each other. So if I zoom out, you do not need a huge lens collection for corporate filmmaking. You need a smart combination. And for me, that's one zoom lens and 2 prime lenses. And realistically, from 28mm to 85 covers almost everything. I made a video recently about how I'm rigging my A cam, the Sony A-Sync 4. So if you're interested in how I'm building my setup, I'll link you the video down below. So yeah, these are the lenses that I'm using for my work as a corporate filmmaker here in New York. They are not perfect. They are not the most expensive one, but they work. And this is what I really think matters. Would be curious to hear, what are you using? What are your lenses as a corporate filmmaker? Would love to read it in the comments. Let me know if you have any questions left. Thank you so much for watching, and I see you in the next one.